What's good, YouTube? In this video I'm going to be making a budget stainless exhaust for the E30. Right now I'm running a stock exhaust aside from having no muffler, and I'm pretty tired of the setup. It sounds pretty shitty. Alright, so I'm not really looking for huge performance gains here. I just want the car to sound a lot better. I want to have a half decent exhaust system. Hopefully with my custom exhaust I can have more ground clearance, especially with a bagged car. So these are the headers I'm going to be putting in the car. I got them on eBay for $150 including shipping. For 150 bucks they're not bad, and depending on the fit we'll see if they're worth it or not. The first thing I'm going to be doing is taking out the original exhaust system. You can see originally this is where I took off the muffler and just welded some pipe on, some crappy tips, and the mounting was pretty terrible. So there's one more hanger underneath the car I need to unbolt, and now I'm going to start unbolting the headers so we can get the entire system out. Alright, we got all the header bolts out. Now we're going to take the whole thing out. So as you can see, we have the manifold loose. We're going to bring the entire thing up, and then we're going to get an impact on these guys. Get it out. I don't think we can slide the entire assembly out right now. If you look under the car, there's still a big resonator. I don't think we're going to be able to fit that through this gap up here. After some trial and error, we got the original manifolds out and the upper portion of the exhaust system. What we did was we detached the exhaust hanger that went here, and we moved the entire exhaust system up out of the engine bay, and then we got an impact on these, took these off, and then we slid the entire thing back out. Now that the old exhaust is out, we can test fit the new headers. Alright, so I haven't got the headers to fit perfectly yet. Right now I'm just taking off the exhaust studs that are stuck on using 2 nuts, and I'm gonna leave them in vinegar overnight because they're pretty corroded and rusty. So I'll have fresh studs in the morning and I can continue messing with the headers. Obviously with $150 headers there's going to be some fitment issues. The front header contacts the engine mount right here, so I might have to grind a little bit of this away. It's not that much in the way, so I should only have to grind a little bit of this away. And then this header contacts the firewall down there, which is not great. I was considering returning the headers, but to be honest, most eBay headers are probably going to be like that. So I'm just going to try to make it work. right now I'm going to extend the O2 sensor wiring because the bung is on the X pipe, which is a lot farther from the original position. The original position's somewhere around there, and right now it's all the way over here. So we're going to need to extend the wiring on the O2 sensor by about 18 inches. Hopefully that'll improve how the car runs right now so I can drive it. Alright, so we decided to ditch the X pipe and just use a Y pipe into a single exhaust, 2.5 inch all the way to the back. Should be enough. True duals would be nice, but in terms of cost and difficulty, single is probably just better. We also decided to modify the headers in order to fit V-band clamps right after the merge collectors to make the exhaust easier to take apart. So this is the old X pipe, which we're not going to use because we're doing a single pipe all the way to the back, but I think I can use this portion of the X pipe to make joining the exhaust outlets easier, and then replace this portion with the Y pipe. So basically cut it right here, weld the Y pipe on, and then single from there. I'm also going to cut off this bung and reuse it. So the Y pipe is going to go right here. So we're going to make a cut somewhere along here, weld this sucker on, and see if we can get these to fit up to the headers. Alright, so I spent a lot of time putting this piece together. I have it all tacked now. I'm going to go ahead and TIG weld it. Alright, so I got the piece all welded up. Now let's go test fit it on the car. Hopefully it didn't shift too much when I was welding it. Here's the merge collector. That's where I put the narrow band bung. I have one pipe come through here. And then where the old resonator was, I'm just gonna have a flex pipe. So somewhere between the flex pipe and here, I'll just put the wide band bung. Alright, so this is the template I'm going to use to start making some 15-degree pie cuts on my 2.5 inch stainless. So right now I'm just cutting and marking more sections of the pipe. I'm gonna make sure the fitment's good, and then I'm gonna tack it and then TIG weld the next section of the exhaust. Alright, so I'm adding another V-band flange on the 2.5 inch piping. I've already applied solar flux, as you can see, and we're ready to weld. Alright, so here's the piece. I'm doing this finishing touch on it. We have V-bands on this side, V-bands on this side too. When I tacked it, like, it made a gap, so I'm gonna cut that and re-tack it. But overall, this came out pretty good. Alright, the welds are finally finished on this piece. Now we can move on to the flex pipe section. Alright, so here's the next section of pipe. Here's the flex pipe, and this is the other end of that V-band clamp. So I have two joints. I'm gonna TIG. I already have it all tacked. Let's get to it. Alright, the flex pipe piece is all welded up. Let's go put it on the car. Alright, so I want to be installing a wideband sensor, which means another bung. I've marked out a part on this pipe where I want to weld the bung in. The last one I welded in a little bit low, and I'm a little bit worried about the ground clearance, but we'll see what happens with that. Hopefully it doesn't catch on anything. This one, I'm trying to aim it a little bit higher. Alright, so what I'm going to do first is figure out where my muffler is going to go. And then once I figure that out, I'll figure out how to connect the flex pipe to the muffler and work from there. Alright, so I have this portion after the flex pipe all tacked up. This was a lot easier than the previous parts because it's just two long pipes and one pie cut. I already had that done too, so it was easy. I didn't have to use the template and cut a new one. Alright, so I got this last piece right before the muffler. I got that tacked on. And I threw in a V-band. I did that all off camera because you guys have seen that before. So the muffler is going to be detachable. I want everything detachable, so when I need to smog the car, I can take it off easily. So I have to do this joint, and then we're done with this piece from the flex pipe to the almost the muffler. So we're close. We're getting there. The end is in sight. Let's get this piece welded. Alright, so picking up from last time, I have everything done before the muffler. I just took apart the back end after that V-band clamp, and I tacked on the muffler to a pie cut to the section with that V-band. I'll show you guys in a second. So I just tacked that. I'm gonna finish TIG welding that, mount the muffler on this somehow, probably using one of the exhaust hangers I bought. Weld that onto this, and then weld that to the muffler, just so the muffler is not welded directly onto this. Figure out some way to mount it, and then I'm gonna weld the tips on after. I got the tips right here. There's some cheap stainless tips I found on Amazon or something for pretty cheap. They look fine, and we should be done soon. Alright, so like I mentioned before, I got this part tacked on. The muffler, one pie cut, and then this section with the back end of the V-band on it. So once we get this TIG welded, put this back on the car, mount the muffler, and then get the tips on. We probably need a little more piping, and that's it. You give it a rev. Alright, so I have the tips tacked on now. As you can see, I have the muffler mounted really simply right now. This might not be a long-term solution, but it's whatever. It's pretty solid though, and the fitment is good. Alright, so got this piece tacked on. As you can see, I just put another bead right there just to kind of reinforce the bracket. It's pretty flimsy, but whatever. Now we're gonna go ahead and TIG these two joints. Some beautiful tack welds right there. Alright, I got both joints welded. This one was a little bit of trouble because this metal is thinner than the 16 gauge tubing I was using, but it worked out okay. Let's go get on the car, see how it fits. Alright, so here's a picture of the exhaust on the car. My camera died, so I couldn't get any footage, but that's what it looks like. Alright, so the last part of this video is just wrapping the headers because I want to keep the temperatures in the engine bay down. I got this off of Amazon. It's probably one of the cheaper options out there. Alright, so right now I'm in the process of taking off the headers again. It's a lot easier having V-bands. You just disconnect the two up there that go to the collector and then disconnect the one back there. So I got this one off. It's loose. Just need to take this one off. Alright, so I got my wrap, my gloves, and the headers, as well as some zip ties and these stainless steel ones that came with the wrap. So they recommend that you soak the wrap a little bit before you put it on to stop the fibers from getting everywhere. Alright, so I got one header fully wrapped, but I'm going to move on to the next one and do it off camera. Alright, so I got the headers completely wrapped and I'm putting that back on. I also just did an oil change. You can see the new filter back there. Alright, so I'm going to start this thing up and you guys can hear how it sounds at idle, as well as cruising, wide open throttle, and I'll do some flybys for you guys too. Overall, doing the exhaust was a pretty challenging process, but it was pretty fun and I did learn a lot, especially about welding stainless. If you couldn't tell, my welds were definitely getting better throughout the video, and the car definitely sounds a lot better. So in terms of performance, I haven't tuned it or anything. I think the car pulls a little bit more, kind of around 4,000 or 5,000 RPMs, but not a huge difference. I'm just happy about the sound and the looks, to be honest. The car sounds really great. It's not a cheap sounding exhaust, and it sounds really good. It sounds crisp and it's not as loud and obnoxious. The exhaust I had before would drone a lot. That's what having no muffler does, and this is just so much better, and it's loud when I want it to be loud, and it doesn't sound obnoxious, it doesn't sound like shit. Overall, I'd say this is a worthwhile project. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.